is to organize weekly AI webinars. We organize 2 webinars per week. We demonstrate data and AI use cases and different tools and technologies and their integration with our database, and sometimes just plain topics revolving around technology. I also post about our upcoming webinars every week. So if these topics are interesting to you, please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. You can stay on top of the loop. And I'd also love to hear for your feedback or any ideas on topics that you'd like to see in future sessions. Okay, speaking of future sessions, we have got several amazing sessions coming up. On 9th of May, we have live rack comparison test, Pinecone versus Mongo versus Postgres versus SingleStore. On May 15th, we have Zapier Central plus SingleStore full RAG agents. On May 22nd, we have LLMs in fraud detection. This is a very popular topic. We actually get very good audience in this topic. I'd actually recommend you guys to attend this one if you guys are interested. So, okay, if these are interesting to you, please RSVP right now, and I actually hope to see you all there. Okay, coming back to today's topic, you're all welcome to participate in the discussion throughout the session using the Zoom Q&A button at the bottom of your console. We have an internal mission statement to try to answer 100% of the audience questions. And even if that means that we'll have to follow up with everyone via email, this has got a little difficult over time, but it's absolutely fine. You guys can ask away, and we're up for the challenge. But, make sure that you guys have logged into your Zoom account with your name and email address, because we won't be answering any anonymous questions. And also, we love you all to have a dynamic experience during this webinar. So please feel free to try out SingleStore notebooks. Anyone who tries out SingleStore notebooks will be entered for a chance to win either branded new AirPods Pro or Meta's new Ray-Ban LLM smart glasses. It's absolutely your choice. Simply click this link. I'll put everything in the chat, or it's displayed on the screen as well. You can scan the QR code and log in. You guys may know that SingleStore has had a free trial offer for many years, but just in past few weeks, we have also announced a new free shared tier, which we'll talk about a bit later today. All right, moving on. I'm so excited to announce our speaker today. Joining us today is Akmal Chaudhary. He's one of our best webinar speakers we have at SingleStore. He's been in the database technology space since 1988, and he's a recognized subject matter expert in the same domain. He also focuses on big data and NoSQL. It's a privilege to have you, Akmal. You have so much of experience, and we have so much to learn from you. Okay, so the floor is now yours, and thank you very much.
Okay, well, thank you very much. So thanks for mentioning how old I am. So I've been in this space a long time. Okay. One thing you never ask, don't ask a woman her age. Don't ask a guy in terms of how long he's been working in IT. I'm just kidding. Thanks very much. Okay, well, welcome. Thank you very much for joining today. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Really appreciate your time. We know your time is valuable. So hopefully this session will be useful for you. We hope so. And I have a few slides to show, not too many. And once the main sort of slides are done, we've got a notebook, and Yukti will be sharing the link for that as well. So you're very welcome to try that out. A couple of small gotchas. I ran the notebook myself earlier today just to make sure that it was okay. There's a couple of deprecation warnings. It's simply some libraries have changed. The way that LangChain works has changed. It will still work, okay? I mean, if you want to clean up and remove those warning signs, I'll show you how to do it, okay? And we will post an updated version, but in the meantime, it works fine, okay? Don't worry about it. So anyway, so first things first. So let's just say a few words about SingleStore, the company. So as you can see, we go back in time quite a bit here. Founded as MemSQL, long time ago, 2011. Long time as far as technology is concerned. And then here we are right at 2024. So there's a couple of milestones mentioned along the way there, as you can see. And so one of the important ones is that we've actually had vector search since 2017. Okay, and we were rebranded, originally called MemSQL, rebranded as SingleStore. Here you can see 2020. Okay, so we are, as far as the SingleStore name is concerned, relatively new. And let me just say a couple of words here. So sometimes people ask about the company in terms of its overall finances and the number of customers that we have. I mean, that's a good indication of success. And so you can see that we are now a 100 million plus annual recurring revenue ARR company. And you can see that the revenue there really started to take off somewhere here between 2017 and 2018. And similarly for the number of customers, a little bit of a lag there, as you can see, as far as revenue is concerned. Takes a bit of time to build up that presence. But here you can see, again, there's a kind of an inflection point there between 2019 and 2020. We have over 350 global customers covering a wide range of verticals and different domains. And as you can see along the bottom there, where it
Your
says,
audio is little, it's like little shaky.
okay, my apologies for that. I'm not sure if there's anything I can do. Let me try and see if there's something I can do for that. Thank you for highlighting that. You'll see, there you go, in real time. We're going to try and fix the problem. There we go. Let's see what I can do.
I am wide. That's an option.
Let's have a go. Let's see if there's anything I can do here. Just bear with me one moment, and we'll see if there's anything on the local network that I can do here to improve that. So
Thanks for your patience, guys.
yeah, there we go. All right, let me try this. Okay, this might help.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Okay, I've just changed a small setting on the local LAN here, which I hope may improve the overall performance. And Yukti, please keep me straight, okay? So if you find that there's some audio or visual problems, just again, interrupt.
It's much better now. It's
all right,
You're
great.
good.
Thanks very much. That's one of the things about doing live presentations. It's Murphy's Law. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong at the worst possible time. Well, there you go. We try and fix it in real time. Okay, so there we are. So that's the company itself. In terms of the technology, well, SingleStore originally started off with OLTP in memory. Okay, that's where the focus area was. And then with the addition of analytics support, columnar storage, and this kind of universal storage mechanism here, which can handle both types, okay, both OLAP and OLTP that was introduced. I think there's a patent on that. It is fairly unique in the industry. I think others have announced similar capabilities, but haven't actually delivered yet. SingleStore has actually been doing this for a little while now. So we have it tried and trusted and tested. So some of the technologies that we integrate well with, Kafka, okay, and we've covered that quite a lot in previous webinars. We've done Spark in the recent past as well, something that we integrate really well with a Spark connector, and then things like Hadoop, HDFS as well. For example, these are great sources in terms of data. So if you have these within your environment and you're looking at ways to integrate with SingleStore, we have this concept of pipelines, which is what the animation here is really trying to show you as a way that you can ingest data at scale in parallel into SingleStore. We work with the 3 major cloud providers in the Western world. Okay, here, AWS, Google Cloud, Microsoft Azure. And today I will be using AWS. Can be run on-prem as well. Okay, there is a Docker container too. Okay, so if you want to try that out, it's a good way to do it. But seriously, the link that Yukti has shared with you in the chat, creating an account online in the web is probably the quickest and simplest way to get started without installing anything locally. I mean, that will really get you up and running very, very quickly. Now, one of the questions that we're often asked in these webinars, and as for those of you who are regulars, you know that I assist with the Q&A. People ask, okay, well, how are you different from Pinecone or Weaviate or ChromaDB, for example? Well, here is the main differentiator. We do a lot more than just vectors, okay? So Obviously, relational is the backbone and the core of the technology. This is where it's really come from. But you can do things like geospatial, which we've covered in past webinars. You can do time series. Again, we've covered that in past webinars. JSON support has been there for quite some time, and it's got even better with the addition of the SingleStore Chi for MongoDB. Okay, so if you want to transition your MongoDB apps from Atlas, or if you're using the on-prem or sort of a cloud version, whatever, you can move those applications across to SingleStore very easily. Key value as well. There is the Lucene full text search engine built in as well. And of course, vectors, which I kind of alluded to a few moments ago and mentioned that we've had that capability since 2017. And bear in mind that earlier this year, there was a major product announcement. So vector support is improved considerably. I'll show you a little bit of that today, and I'll give you some more information where you can find, and especially if you're working with LangChain, there's a couple of cool features that you can utilize very, very easily, and we'll show you that. So essentially, you can see here that overall, architecturally, and in terms of what the product can do, it's far more than just vectors. And typically in an enterprise environment, chances are, if you are building a variety of different systems, unless you have a very specific and niche requirement just to do vectors, I mean, you can use SingleStore just for vectors if you wish, but really its strength lies in its ability to do far more. And typically in an enterprise environment, what I found over the years, working on many projects and many different roles that I've held, is that the demands for a product tend to be far more than just a very narrow niche kind of requirement. There are multiple users, multiple applications, multiple use cases. I mean, people invest quite a bit of money and time and effort in building these environments and building these systems, and they want to get the maximum return from those. So from a developer's perspective, having a single product really helps you, because now you don't have to learn half a dozen different technologies. From a business perspective, it's great because your total cost of ownership goes down. You don't have to pay license fees for multiple products, and your return on investment is going to improve as well. So this is the key thing. So it's going to help both sets of groups there. So applications, real-time decisions, AI apps, dynamic experiences, machine learning, ad hoc queries, and dashboards we've covered to some degree in various previous webinars. Okay. Hopefully that's helped you understand the technology a little better. Now, let's take a look at SingleStore with AWS. Okay, so here is a rather busy diagram, but as you can see, SingleStore is actually available on the AWS marketplace. Okay, so if that's something that you want to get started with quickly, that's a great way to do it. But we equally, if you take a look at this, and let me highlight some of these areas. So if you wish to work with some existing technologies on the AWS platform, for example, maybe Amazon Aurora, RDS, okay, you can use things like AWS Glue as a means to connect to SingleStore. Maybe you are working with analytics, okay, so things like Redshift, okay, QuickSight, and so you've got JDBC, ODBC support. If there's other things, perhaps you are working with SageMaker. Okay, you can see here that there is a Python connector that you can utilize that. So at its core here, you can see SingleStore really is in a very good place. It allows a variety of ways to interact with a whole host of AWS products and services. So that's going to be very valuable for you. Now, again, one of the questions that we receive quite often is, and my guess is not just enterprise customers, but more or less everyone perhaps has some level of interest in this, is, okay, it's very well working with these large language models, and you're sending data across the wire to some third party to process it for you. There's concern in terms of privacy and security. And so one of the things that you can do is utilize something that AWS and other cloud providers have this capability to, is this concept of these sort of private, virtual private sort of networks, and using this private link capability. And so here's a very simple example demonstrating this ability to use the kind of private link, okay, both in the cloud here and within your VPC here. And in this particular example, I mean, it's using this Amazon, streaming for Kafka, MSK, and you've got Kafka, self-managed Kafka on EC2, for example, running inside this environment. So this provides one solution, okay, one way that you could have greater control. And particularly if you've worked with AWS over any length of time and you're experienced and knowledgeable about the platform, you know that it provides immense knobs and whistles and things that you can tune to your heart's content and give you immense control down to a very fine-grained level in as far as who can access what and when, okay? It's that level of control that you have, and that gives you a great deal of flexibility in terms of utilizing LLMs within this environment, okay? And we're going to look specifically at Bedrock, which is something that AWS provides, okay? And we'll look at a couple of the large language models that they support. Now, to be fair, something like this private link, okay, it's now being offered by some competitors as well, but keep in mind that specifically within AWS, I mean, this is still the largest cloud platform out there, and they have, as I said before, very extensive capabilities and fine-grained control. And so that's something that you might want to think about. Great if you're already using this platform, and this could be, one mechanism that you utilize. Another way that you could do this, and I'm sure there are other options too, but one that comes to mind immediately is that you host and run your large language model locally in your own environment. And actually, I think we've got something in the pipeline scheduled for a couple of weeks' time. It was not on the list that you saw a few slides back there, but I'll be showing you how to use Ollama, for example. And we'll be running that locally in my virtual machine on my laptop. And I'll be generating embeddings and chat text, and I'll be connecting to SingleStore securely, and SingleStore will be in the cloud, okay? And it is very, very straightforward, extremely simple to do, but very powerful again. And that gives you another possibility, another option in terms of you control the environment, you control what you use, and it's within your, sitting behind your firewall. And that can be very, very useful. Okay. So in terms of the steps to build custom generative AI apps, then essentially what we boiled it down to are sort of three kind of main areas, loosely speaking. Choose LLMs to work within your network, choose a vector data strategy, and then do the retrieval augmented generation RAG. Okay. So the first aspect here is, again, notice here the reference to the private subnet, okay, that we have some control in terms of the environment, and then you can do this a variety of ways, okay? So there is the possibility to use a commercial LLM, okay? So today we're going to use Bedrock, and Bedrock has got a couple of the sort of leading edge, bleeding edge technologies that you could use as far as LLMs are concerned. I'll show you that momentarily, or you could equally go for the open source option if you wish to do so, okay? So analytics, streaming data, NoSQL data, there's a variety of ways that you could utilize this. And again, I will point out some resources to you where you can try this out for yourself and connect with a variety of different systems. So for example, if you have some data on S3, for example, or you've got some data sitting in a MySQL database or even MongoDB somewhere, there are assets and resources that you can utilize to help you get those into SingleStore. So the second part of this is actually storing the vectors. In LangChain, the default that it uses is to store it as a blob, unless you provide some specific information to it, in which case it will utilize the new vector type. And again, that's something that I will show you in a couple of weeks' time if you decide to attend that webinar that we have in the pipeline on Ollama. And its vectors typically packed as 32-bit floating point. You can change that as well. There is some flexibility in terms of that. And then we provide two mechanisms out of the box. It's dot product and Euclidean distance, okay, in terms of determining how near things are. And again, we'll utilize that momentarily. And then finally, it's actually getting something useful out of this. And so the example that we're going to use, we're going to take, and this was actually very kindly provided to us by AWS some time ago. And it is taking some of their annual kind of documents, statements in terms of their performance and their, these are as PDF documents. We utilize 4, but you could add many more if you wish to do so. And it's a kind of a nice example, because often a lot of the examples that we tend to see, it's just taking a single kind of document, breaking that out, storing it, generating the embeddings, and now kind of asking interesting questions of that. So this example goes a little bit further than that. And again, you have some control. You can decide how much data you want to store. It's entirely up to you. All right, so typically then we'll take some PDF documents, we will split them and make them smaller. Okay, we will generate some embeddings. Okay, so we're going to use Bedrock to help us tighten embeddings from AWS. And then we're going to be able to answer some interesting questions of that. And it's going to return some suitable match documents for us. Okay, there we go. So very straightforward. Okay, so let's now switch to the demos, and just keep an eye on the time and just make sure we are running okay. Great. Okay, so a couple of things before we get to the demo. Let me just point this out. So the link that Yukti shared with you in the chat, if you follow that and you want to be in for the draw, it will take you to this page. Okay, so you've got a couple of options in terms of sign up. You can use Google, you can use Microsoft, or you could do the old-fashioned way and just put your first name, last name, and email address. And essentially, there's kind of 2 main things on the left-hand side here. Let me just highlight these for you. So the first thing is this free shared tier. Okay. And the second one is that if you need a bit more, something a bit more kind of customized for your requirements, maybe a bit more dedicated compute power, you have this second option for, they give you $600 in credits. Now, in case you're wondering, well, $600 is not very much. How long is it going to last? I still have credits. I've been with the company nearly 3 years now. So I created an account early on, around the time I joined, and I still got credits from that time. Okay, so if you manage the resources carefully, it will last you a long time. Okay, all right then. So once you've created that and you're logged in, you will see something like this. Okay, so you will see an environment that has a left nav that looks like this. Okay, and let me just highlight this for you. There we go. Now you'll see mine is a little bit busy here. You can see, because I'm sharing this with other colleagues. There's a lot of stuff going on here. Let me just make that a little bit smaller for you. And so here you can see you've got access to various useful resources. So there's a built-in SQL editor, which I'll show you in a moment. And there's the notebooks here, okay, which you can see. Okay, let me just highlight that for you. There we go. And right down at the bottom, and I'm going to have to move my Zoom controls in order to show you this, but you can see that whatever your organization is, you've got this capability right at the bottom here, self-managed licenses. So I won't click on that for obvious reasons, because that will reveal the license key. But when you've created your account, you will have access to a self-managed license. And that license allows you to install a 4-node version free of charge wherever you want, on-prem, in the cloud, wherever. And it's a fully functional product. The only restriction is just 4 nodes, okay? And we do have some customers actually running that. So in case that's something you want to try for yourself. Okay, so in order to use the notebook environment, you need to have some compute resources. And so I think Yukti may have shared the link with you for the actual notebook that I'm going to use today, but let me just show you a couple of things. So first, on the left nav, you can see this thing here called Gallery. Okay, here we go. And so if I click on this, here we've got a fairly wide range of notebooks available. Okay, there we go. And you can see, so, if you want, for example, to learn how to back up a database to AWS S3, there's a notebook for that. And if you want to ingest data from Confluent Cloud, there's a notebook for that. Okay, so there are examples that you can see: ingest data from MongoDB to SingleStore using SQL commands, and so on. So one of the notebooks here, which is the link that Yukti should have shared with you. Let me just go down. I think it's a little bit further down here and see if I can find that. Where are we? Here we go. So this one here, retrieval augmented question and answering with Amazon Bedrock. Okay, so that's the one I'm going to be using. So basically just click on this here and it will load it. But in order to run it, and if in case you're wondering what does it look like, it looks like this. Okay, but in order to make use of that, you do need to have some compute resources. So either go for the free tier option or something dedicated. Otherwise, basically the notebook's got no means to be able to run the command. So in order to create the compute resources, again, check on the left-hand side here. Okay, you can see this thing here called group. Okay, and just highlight that for you. There we are. And so if you click on this, here you can see you've got the two options available. You've got the starter workspace. That's probably the quickest and easiest way to get started. The notebook should work just fine in the starter workspace. So you can choose your workspace name. Okay, that's fully editable. Okay, here you can see it's pre-filled that in because, like I said, I share this environment with other colleagues. So they've been creating other workspaces in this environment. Currently, you can see it's AWS. That may change. Other cloud providers may be offered. And again, there is the choice of just one region at the moment, okay, which is US East, North Virginia. Okay, there we go. You can, again, edit your database name down at the bottom here. It's pre-selected something for me, given me a name already. I can change that. And then be aware that if you choose a workspace name and a database name that's already in use, because remember, this is a shared environment, it will tell you you can't use that. Okay, so just modify it appropriately. And then all you need to do then is just click this, create starter workspace. There you go. Let me do that. And there you go. It's done. Within a second or so, you now have your compute resources here. It's automatically giving you the database here as well. So no need to create that. It's not very user-friendly name there, but it's okay. Just for illustrative purposes. And if you want to find sort of connection details here, you can see there is a menu, connect. If I click on this, you've got a variety of ways that you can connect. So CLI client, SQL IDE, for example. If I select the SQL IDE, it's insisting that I create a user, which is fine. And I have read-write permissions. It's given me a password here as well. Don't worry, I know it's being revealed to all of you, but that's fine. And I just say create user, okay? And then here you can see it's given me the information that I need. So there's the long string in terms of the host. Okay, there we are. It's given me the port number, 3333 in this case. What's my username, password, the database. And if I need to connect from outside the SingleStore environment, it's going to insist upon a certificate. And you can get the certificate just from below here, just by clicking this. Okay, so that was a .pem file. Okay, so within this environment, that's absolutely fine. Don't need to do that. Okay, so in order to utilize the notebook, like I said, if you click on it directly from Gallery, it will load it up for you. If you want to download it from Spaces, which is the other place that you can get it, that's fine too. And then you need to upload it. And so all you need to do then is on the left-hand side here, as you can see, just select notebooks. And if you can see that this is, again, quite a busy environment. There's a lot of stuff there. But if you look on the top right-hand side, you'll see there's a couple of options. One is new notebook, and the second one is import from file, okay? So if you import from file, it will just give you a wizard and then just ask you where is it located, and then you can load it into your personal or shared space. Personal is fine. All right, so that's actually what I've done here. And what in my particular case, I've opted for dedicated resources rather than the free shared tier, although as you can see in the note here, it does say that this works absolutely fine on the free starter workspace. One of the benefits of the free starter workspace is that you don't have to worry about databases, and you don't have to worry about setting up this at the top here, which you have to consider if you've got multiple databases that you're using. So let me just make sure this is set to the correct workspace here, workspace 1. And I do have a database here, Bedrock demo, I've called it. Okay, for this one. There we go. And once you've got your compute resources essentially, and you've loaded up your notebook here, you're ready to go. And so this is a very useful example because it utilizes the Bedrock environment. So let me just show you a couple of things before we actually execute the code. So here I mentioned that SingleStore is available in the AWS marketplace. Okay, so you can take a look at this. So you can see we've got a couple of options here. This is the one that you probably want to use here, SingleStore DB Cloud. Okay, and from within my AWS account, I just search for Bedrock. Okay, show this, and then just try this, and then it gives you a couple of options. The thing that you probably want to access down in the bottom left here is model access. So if I click on this, it shows you the base models that are available. In this case, there are 6. I've opted to utilize Titan for text. Okay, and you can see it says access granted, and I've opted to use Claude here, and again you can see it's access granted. Okay, so with these things, essentially, once you've decided which ones that you would like to use, just request. Okay, and here you can see manage model access. I can add more if I want. So typically, let's say if I want to go here in terms of embed English and embed multilingual, for example, and then I just save the changes here. I'll opt not to, okay, because I don't need those. But you can see you've got some description in terms of the modality, whether it's useful for embedding or for text. Okay, and just cancel that. And there's a couple of other useful things that you can do with this. So there is a playground available on the left-hand side as well, you can see, and you can test out the chat and the text capabilities just by selecting a model and then utilizing it here locally. That's a great way to do it. Now, in case you're wondering about the cost for this, well, for this particular notebook, when I originally tested this and presented it first time last year in a webinar, I think the bill that I received from AWS for running this entire notebook was like about 2 or 3 pence. I don't know what that translates into US, but probably around 5 cents. I don't know, 10 cents, something like that. You know, very tiny amount in terms of the actual bill that I received. It was actually embarrassing because my credit card still needs to be charged, and AWS was charging like 2 or 3 pence, I think, something like that. But there we go. So those are the technologies we'll use. We'll use the Titan embeddings from Amazon, okay, for doing the text, and then we'll use a different LLM. Okay, you'll see that in a moment. Okay, as we work our way through this notebook. So this initial description here, the markdown here does a very good description and presentation in terms of what we are doing here, what is the purpose of this. And as you can see here, this graphic, very similar to what I showed you in my slides. So we are taking some source knowledge, okay, we are breaking that down into smaller parts simply because the context, if you like, or the window, or the amount of information that we can send in order to get our embeddings back, we have to control that within this environment. We can't simply send the entire document over in one go. And then we are using these embeddings to convert the text representation of what's in the PDF documents, what we've chunked up, and giving us this kind of numerical representation, these embeddings, and that's what we're storing in SingleStore and using it as a vector database. Now, keep in mind, again, for vectors, lots of choices available, understood. The thing is, with SingleStore, you have other options available as well. So, for example, you can combine full text search with semantic search, for example. That's quite unique. That gives you a great way to be able to get back, much more focused information and be able to store a lot of different information. You can combine SQL as well, okay? And you can do much more. Geospatial, time series, I've mentioned these, okay? So you're not kind of just limited to just vectors. You might have queries that take elements from all of those, and that might be very useful for you in the type of data that you're storing, the kind of analysis that you want to do. And then subsequently, once we've done this process of creating our embeddings using Titan, let's use something like this, okay, a large language model, to actually give us a bit more meaning and context out of that, okay, to ask some questions of that. And in this specific case, we're going to ask some questions about AWS, and you'll see those momentarily. All right. So here, it's a bit more information in terms of the embedding model. Okay, so it mentions we're using Titan embeddings. I showed you that momentarily. We're going to take a whole bunch of PDF documents from AWS. These are actual real documents. And we'll run through this. Okay, so let me execute this. And again, keep an eye on the time. So we're doing good. So let's do this. Okay, so my compute is set up. I've previously created a database over here. Okay, this is using the SQL editor. So I went through this process. If you're using the free tier, you don't need to do this. Okay, your database is essentially there for you. All right, so let's just run this this cell here. Okay, there we go. And notice here that this says here copy. I've actually run this before, and then I thought, well, let me just make a duplicate of this so we can do this in real time. And if there are any issues, I can switch back to the version that I executed a little bit earlier on. Now, obviously for this, because it is AWS, you are going to have to provide a little bit of information, okay? So you're going to have to generate an access key, okay, and a secret access key as well. All right, and so here we've used this get pass in order to provide a means to be able to store this. So bear with me one moment. So I'll just pause this a moment. I don't want to reveal my keys to the whole world. So let me just give me a sec whilst I just take care of that, okay? I think we are working on a mechanism to, enable credentials to be stored in this environment. That's something that's coming soon. So, be patient. All right, so let me just put this in, access first one, and let's do the other one. All right, there we go. Okay, there we go. Let me just maximize this again, and let's resume the share. There we go. All right, so I've put those values in. We just need to do a couple of imports here. And then this is just a helper function here to just control the kind of the character width output. It's fine. And then here you can see we are actually specifying that we are connecting this particular session to Bedrock. Okay, and then we're using LangChain here. Now, one of the things that in this block of code that you'll find is that LangChain, because it's updated on a fairly regular basis, and sometimes things are kind of split out into different parts, you will get a deprecation warning. First time I ran this, I had that. It's fine if you can still work with this. It will still give exactly the same results. If you want to fix it, like I said, it's a minor thing. just follow the instructions of the actual deprecation warning. And essentially all it says is that you need to use this. You need to install this LangChain -AWS. Okay. And then instead of using this from langchain.llms.bedrock import bedrock, you need to switch it to this because now you're using the LangChain AWS. Okay. So now it's just called Bedrock LLM. And then there's one small code change here. This one line, that's it. Okay. So a couple of small additions there. If you don't want to do it, that's absolutely fine. It will still work. Okay. But it's sometimes nice to get those warnings removed. And as you know, things tend to change fairly rapidly in this space. So there we go. And all we've done here is we've specified that we are going to use this. Okay, Anthropic's Claude 2. Okay, we've provided some parameters here in terms of the maximum number of tokens that it's going to handle as well. And we've also told it that we're going to use Titan embeddings here as well. Okay, and this is the Titan embed text version 1. All right, so a little bit of data preparation then. So this is where it's downloading all these 4 files. Okay, so these are shareholder letters from 2019, 2020, 21, 22 for AWS. You could extend this and include more PDF files. Okay, so basically it just downloads that locally, okay, creating a directory within my environment here. And then we're simply taking this PDF reader, working over those files, and then just breaking them down. Now, one very important point here, and then again, this is sometimes we get asked in terms of the chunking. These statements, these letters from Amazon, there is a little bit of repetition. Okay, so the last 3 pages of each document is exactly the same. And so if you think about it, if you decide that you're going to store that, you've got effectively the same bit of information occurring multiple times. And so what it simply does here is to remove the last 3 pages. Okay, this is, oops, sorry, let me trying to be too clever here. And just get my arrow. This thing here essentially just remove the last 3 pages. That's all that's happening here. Okay, so it describes it a little bit above. Okay. Okay, so I think I forgot. So let me just try.
Can I interject for a second?
Yes.
We actually have some questions related to the access key. Some people are trying like in real time, so they don't really.
Yes, yes.
Right
Okay.
now. Yeah, you can just let us know about that, and then we can move forward.
The access key, you'll need to get that from AWS. You'll need an AWS account in order to utilize that. Okay, so that's the main thing there. Okay, so if we, okay, got a small typo there. There we go. Let me just run this. All right. So if we go back here, let me just show you this thing here. All right. So these things you will get from your AWS account. All right. Obviously, I can't share mine because you'll use them. I'll get billed. Okay. So this is something that you will have to within your AWS environment, go to the IAM, okay, and go to the dashboard. You'll be able to create these access keys, and I think store them in a safe place, keep them close, and don't share them. Don't upload to GitHub or something like that that exposes them. So they are your keys. Okay, you'll need to create those. And that's all that's happening there. Okay, so we'll get back to that shortly. All right, there we go. So all it's done there is chunk this up. And then once it's done that, essentially, we are just providing a little bit more context here, splitting those documents up into a size that we can work with. And then finally here, what we're able to do is ask it for a little bit of information. Tell us what's happened. So remember, we started off with 4 PDF documents. It's made them smaller for us, chunked them up. We've ended up with 25 documents, 4,131 characters. And then in order to kind of utilize and stay within sort of boundaries in terms of context windows and tokens and things, we've actually split them up even more. We've ended up with 151 documents instead of the original 25. And then each document length after split is 699 characters. That's fairly small, as you can see. That should be easy to manage then. All right, so, and we'll take a look at that momentarily, okay? And then here you can see using the embedding mechanism, it's given us there. You can see the this vector. It's just shown it partially, okay? 1536, size of the embedding. That's fairly typical, although you can have smaller ones. With Olama, for example, if you're using something local, you can go for a smaller one. All right, we'll show that. And then finally here, just storing those in SingleStore. It does say here, no, it might take a few minutes to run the following cell. It's actually not too bad. It's quite fast. So this has taken the framework, as you can see, does a lot of hard work for you. So saves you time as a developer. Here, we don't have to tell SingleStore in terms of the structure. It will take the embeddings. We can store the document representation as well, how it's been chunked up. That can go into the database as well, and that's all managed for us. By default, you can see here we've really not given it a lot of options here. In fact, if I just show you the SingleStore DB page on LangChain, you can see if you scroll down to the bottom, you actually have far more options and sort of how you can configure it. There is a vector index that you can utilize, okay? You can make use of full text search as well, okay? The distance strategy. Remember I told you that dot product and Euclidean distance are the two mechanisms available? Well, the default is dot product, but you can change it to Euclidean distance if you wish, okay? And it can take the embeddings and the documents, okay? So the example there you've seen is very, very simple, almost minimalist. All right, that will work. But if you want to fine tune, you want more options, you want to add some additional capabilities, or maybe remove something, you have that choice here in terms of LangChain, and even to the point where you can do sort of multimodal using things like OpenClip embeddings, for example. So this is just the page on the LangChain website for SingleStore. Okay, so it's done that. And then we can ask interesting questions here. How has AWS evolved? That's the query that we want to ask. And then here we'll just use the embeddings. Again, we need to represent that query in a vector so that we can do this kind of nearness comparison. And we can then just execute this and then just tell us what you found. And by default, it's using here dot product. So in this particular case, higher is better, okay, the score. You can see 194, 158, and it's ordering them in this kind of this particular order. What's that? This is descending. If you choose Euclidean distance, okay, smaller is better. So you'll get the, that will be kind of, with Euclidean distance, if it's lower numbers, it's closer together. Okay, you can choose that as well. So this particular case shows you it's returned 4 content. Okay, 4 examples. You have a little bit of flexibility here as well. So you can filter and say, okay, show me just documents in this particular case from 2022. Rather than looking across all the years. And then so in this particular case, it will do that for us. And again, you can see it provides us with a little bit of information to tell us that one and that one, okay? And that one there you can see. So that provides a little bit more control, and this one as well. Okay. And then again, you've got some control in terms of how many you want returned, when you want to apply the filtering, and this is what's going on here. So fair bit of flexibility. gives you, a developer, quite a bit of choice, and essentially, keep your costs down by understanding how these filters work. There's a bit of description here just above to tell you and give you some clues, and that can again be helpful in terms of managing the cost and managing the return, the results that are returned. And then finally, down at the bottom here, we can utilize the actual large. So this is fine up to a point, okay? So all we're doing here so far is just querying what we have stored in terms of the chunks. And we're looking for things that are quite similar. And then here, utilizing the ability of the large language model itself, okay, rather than just the text. And then we can ask interesting questions like, here, for example, how did AWS evolve? And it will take that information, add it to its body of knowledge, if you like, and then whatever else it knows, plus what we've told it, it's been able to give us a bit more information. Why is Amazon successful? You can tell these are questions that probably only Amazon would be interested in asking, maybe. I don't know. Okay. And here's a good one. What business challenges has Amazon experienced? That's probably a good question. I think they've got 100 billion, AWS has 100 billion run rate now, astonishing. And then here, this last one, you can see how was Amazon impacted by COVID-19? And so you can see that, probably there may be some elements of that within those shareholder letters. Okay, remember, this goes from 2019, 20, 21, 22, but the LLM itself may have some background information to that as well. And that here gives us quite a bit of summary. So overall, you can see very straightforward. Bedrock gives you a couple of these base models, super easy to use. Access is typically granted almost immediately, almost instantly. You have to ask for it, and then that's what you get billed on in terms of usage, okay? And if you're not using something, probably a good idea to withdraw it, remove it for the time. SingleStore is available in the AWS Marketplace if you want to use it from that perspective and you are already a customer. Let me see what else I need to show you. Okay, the SQL editor I showed you, this is specific to me in terms of not using the free tier because I opted for the standard one, and therefore I needed to create the database for it to use. For the free tier, you won't have that issue. And then again, LangChain itself, awesome in terms of a framework, takes away a lot of the low-level plumbing, the need to create tables, indexes, all sorts of things. There are lots of options available here that will give you plenty of fine control over that. And some of those we will go into in a few weeks' time when we cover Olama. So this is very, very helpful and a great way, go to this website, just search for it on the LangChain website and look at the documentation, and it gives you a lot of interesting options that you can utilize in terms of storage. We really looked at the very minimal one that we needed to do way up here in terms of getting the data in. But you can see that this is all with the exception of SingleStore, which is running within this environment here. I mean, I'm utilizing Bedrock for this, but equally, I could run this in a private network. Yeah, I have SingleStore available in the marketplace as well. I could create my own environment there. That could be very useful. And then security and privacy, AWS gives you lots of control in terms of access and keys and things like this. All right, great. All right, so just go back here. All right, so just remind of this. Let me just take a look at the time. We've got a couple of minutes for questions. So I think that's probably a good point to stop then, Yukti. So if we have anything in particular that
Yes,
you noticed.
actually, I have some good questions right now.
Yes.
So there is one question by Veenu. She says that what is the maturity of the tooling available for embedding chunking complex files like patient discharge summaries or consultation reports that may include multiple tables, clinical terminologies, multimodal images like X-ray, MRI, CT scans?
Yeah, great question. I think it's getting better and better all the time. I mean, if you look at companies like Unstructured, for example, they give you the ability to handle lots of different data types, like PDF files, obviously, but things like PPTX, PowerPoint presentations, images. We have technologies available now that can handle multimodal capabilities. So Clip, for example, which we did a few weeks ago, open clip. I showed that on the LangChain website. So the thing that I notice here is both commercial technology as well as open source is moving extremely rapidly. It's maturing very quickly. The quality is becoming very, very good indeed. The cost is going down significantly. So I would say that the cost of running things today, and this is something I mentioned not so long ago when we did a webinar covering OpenAI technology. I think it was, this year it was like 10% of the cost it was a year ago. And I'm sure that cost is going to go down even further. And so my take on this is that I'm very confident that we are seeing it mature to the point where if you want to invest in this technology significantly, you've got some real world problems. And you mentioned all those types of different data types. You see, all of those could be very easily handled, I would say today, simply because there's multiple tools, multiple options. All of this is really, really going in the right direction. That's my take.
All right, thank you. We have one more question from Saurav. He says that if we want to use OpenAI embeddings with SingleStore, is it possible as OpenAI embeddings use cosine distance, and SingleStore doesn't offer cosine? What's your take on this?
Okay, so we offer dot product and Euclidean distance. Cosine similarity you can code up in a SQL. If you check on medium.com, I have a bunch of blogs that I write. Very recently, I wrote how you could implement cosine similarity using SQL. And it's actually within the SingleStore documentation as well. So if it's not available, it can be coded. And we have something else that if you want to do something even more exotic, for example, there are many other ways that you can measure distance, for example. WebAssembly, there is a code engine that we have. If you've got some specific algorithm, you can actually code it up in, say, C++ or Rust or something, add that to the database system as a UDF, and it will run that as though it's a part of the database system. It's an extension. You're extending the capabilities of the core engine with something new that is you've coded it, and it will execute in a safe environment. So that's a great way to really add some feature or capability that the core engine may not support. But cosine similarity is easy to do. Others beyond that, bit more exotic, I think, but should be fairly easy to do yourself.
Okay, that was a very nice, detailed explanation. Okay, so we have one more question, just 1 more minute we have. We have a question regarding what performance benchmarks or metrics should we consider when evaluating different vector database solutions?
Oh, great question.
Yes.
I don't know if you've got that link to the article by Eric Hansen that was published on our blog site just recently, outlining some results that we've actually published using a framework from, I think, is one of the vector database vendors themselves. We actually use their framework to test our product, and we were very competitive against this open source offering. And we actually have other benchmarks internally that we are doing, and I expect to see more of these results being published. So SingleStore, if you're thinking of using it in a vector database sort of capacity, we are competitive. It's getting better, and more results will be published. So keep an eye on our blog site. That's the best place.
I found that blog. I'm putting that in the chat.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Okay,
you want to do the prize draw?
Yes, actually, we are a little over time.
Oh, no, that's okay.
And all right. Okay,
I think we're
so
exactly at the top of the hour, so you've still got 1 or 2
okay.
minutes to do the draw.
All right. Okay. Thanks for your patience, everyone. Thank you so much, Akmal. You literally explained everything in such a detailed way, almost like a college professor. I was actually
Oh,
reminded for like 6 months
must be the
back now,
glasses and the
like I'm
beard.
sitting in a class. And also, so for the audience, we have several amazing webinar sessions that are going to come up in the next few days. And on May 9th, we have live rack comparison test, Pinecone versus Mongo versus Postgres,
Yeah.
Postgres versus SingleStore. On May 15th, we have Zapier Central plus SingleStore. Full RAG agents on May 22nd. We have LLMs in fraud detection model comparisons. Uh, the link to these, you can feel free to register if you don't have the time to watch it. We'll send you the recording. Even if you don't attend the webinar, the recording to this webinar and the link to Akmal's GitHub will also be emailed to everyone who attended and also everyone who registered. If any of these topics sound interesting to you, please RSVP right now and we'll hope to see you there. Okay, the announcement that you guys have been waiting for, today's raffle winner in real time goes to Roald Jones, who's a senior data engineer at Adobe. Congratulations and thank you so much for joining. If that's not you, please don't give up. We are going to announce one more AirPods winner or a Meta Ray-Bans winner by the end of day, by the same lucky draw that we are doing. Anyone who decides to try out our demo by using the raffle link that I had provided in the chat that earlier, and you guys can be eligible and be entered to win. I want to thank again Akmal again for today's presentation and demo, and thanks everyone for joining.